Can you hear me now? A lot of times I use this really awesome mic that Dave got me, but I forgot to plug it in tonight. The only problem is when I don't plug it in, I have to use the microphone that's set in the headset. For some reason, every time I try to use it with Ian, we get static. So I didn't plug it in last time. But again, I don't want this mic to kick in while that one's on, so I turn it around. But anyway, Um, Lance Chaffin in the house says thrash, no audio. Hopefully, I've taken care of that. If not, we'll just have to use sign language. John Doe says, John Doe in the house, how you doing? Hello, I got no sound. You're in very good company. Tom Hungry Jerk says, hi, guys. GR, well, welcome, GR. Glad you could make it. GR says, no volume. I'm guessing you guys can hear me now. Ah, John Doe says, gotcha, and GR says, yes. So I'm going to interpret those as we are in sync with volume. Big Guys 45 said, also sad to see you're still barely over 200 subs. Hi, everyone. I actually lost a couple. I was at 207. I was at 207, then I lost a couple. So, yes, guys, do what you can. Forward, share, suggest me to your friends, suggest me to your enemies. Subscribe. Have me go viral somehow. Anything you guys can do to help, I will certainly appreciate. I'll keep putting out good content. At least I'll try. But oh, one of the things I don't know how many of you are on Facebook or other social platforms, but one of the things Keith did was he posted just an old one of my dad jokes videos on LinkedIn, and I got like 90 hits off of it. Sadly, no one subscribed. Apparently, the one that he played, I didn't ask people to subscribe in, which is odd because I'm always doing that. But we'll work something out. I'll make a special video for Keith where I plead for people to subscribe to me. I'll grovel. Tom Donkey Jerk says, I used to read lips. Handy. Big Guy says, Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Hope that it was a good one. We did. Granddaughter went to Plymouth this year, visiting the daughter's boyfriend. He's been with us the last two Thanksgivings. Can't really complain. But it made for a small Thanksgiving this year. Let's see. A lot of people having fellowship. Lance Chafin says, hit that like button, folks. GR says, Happy Thanksgiving. And GR again, welcome to the party, by the way. Very glad you could make it this Thanksgiving. Um, John Doe says, what? You don't have the gravy? I was just talking about that with somebody. And this time we didn't forget the gravy. One of my favorite single shot uh, Warner Brothers cartoons. That is to say, you never saw those characters again, at least those specific characters, again in a future cartoon. And I can never remember what they call that one, but it's a bulldog that's constantly bullying a cat and a mouse for food. And he always complains, What? No gravy? Tom Laramie in the house says, First one done, Lance. Thank you very much. Wajamin in the house says, Hello, happy Thanksgiving. Wajamin has been doing a series of marriage jokes on his channel, which, if you are married, you will think is hysterical. If you are not married, you will think is hysterical. So please go like and subscribe to Wajamin's channel as well. And while on the subject, big guys, I can't believe I haven't already said this about yours. Big Guys 45 is doing some wonderful nostalgia stuff on his channel as well. Some great old forgotten classic songs and some wonderful vintage TV commercials. Check out his channel and definitely like and subscribe there. Length Shaven says, I spent Turkey Day all alone. Oh, commiserations, Lance. I'm very sorry that you didn't. What I would have done, go to a restaurant. At least there's other people around. But I shouldn't make light of it. I'm very sorry that you were flying solo this Turkey Day. But hey, we are all together now. in spirit at least. Keithy in the house. With the headset, does that mean you know Judy from Time Life books? No, I know Judge Judy. Just say Judy. Wajamin is also, he says, I'm sorry to hear that, Lance. Yeah, so hopefully we can brighten your holiday up a little bit with this sort of virtual Thanksgiving Day party. Big Guys 45 brings up an excellent question. Also, why is Thrash still barely over 200 subs? He needs at least 1,000. What he said. Come on, guys. Bring that up to at least. I think 1,000 is a good benchmark. I still can't figure out how I lost two. Come on. Was it something I said? Let's just see. John Doe was watching Dean Martin's Celebrity Roast Marathon. I love those old roasts. I like some of the new ones too. They get a little nowadays, but I do like the modern roast as well. Big Guy says just got done editing a Beatles book film through. Gonna post it in like 15 to 20 minutes after the edits are done and over with. I can't wait to see it. You know my old tradition when I was a kid. After we had Thanksgiving dinner, I would curl up on my grandmother's couch and watch the Beatles' Yellow Submarine. The Life and Set ending in the house says hi. Loved the shot of your holiday dinner tonight, by the way. Looked delicious. And I would have gotten the corn with the seconds. You can always get corn with seconds. You know what? I didn't actually do. I was going to do sweet corn today, and I didn't. My wife wanted green beans instead. I'll make some corn tomorrow. Got plenty of leftovers. Oh, and people, you got to check out Steve on the Life and Set ending. Some absolutely amazing tribute videos. Check him out. And don't forget to like and subscribe while you're there. Lance Chafin says, thanks, guys. No, thank you. It's always great to have you with us. Tom Laramie says, what did you know that marriage is a three-ring circus? I think I know this one. First, the engagement ring, and then the wedding ring, and then the suffer ring. Tracy Myers in the house says, hi, Rob. Hi to you, Tracy. She goes on to say, hi, everyone. Big S 45 says Ann Coulter roast was epic. LOL. I know I've seen that one. I used to when I had the overnight job, the second job. I used to watch that on Comedy Central. They'd play them after 2 because they get a little racy. John Doe says nothing beats the classics. They're classics for a reason. Couldn't have said it better myself. Tom says they were showing roasts on Pluto TV. Huh. I've got to check out Pluto TV. I checked it out once or twice for some old vintage movies. Daryl Johnson in the house says, Bob. Daryl. Isn't that Uncle Bob, by the way? Well, call me anything but late for dinner. And since I cooked tonight's, I definitely wasn't late for it. Big Guy 45 says, Strathros Myers, not forcing you, of course, but are you subbed to me? Honestly, I don't remember if you are or are not. That's funny when you go into subs, it only shows the highlighted subs. It doesn't show all your subscribers. Not to put you on the spot. John Doe says the best part of Thanksgiving is the leftovers. Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit earlier. The tradition of making that cold turkey sandwich before bed is one of my family's favorite traditions, at least with me. Big Guy says back in a little bit. Bye for now. I'm guessing he's posting that Beatles video. Emily Miller in the house says, hey, y'all. Hey, Emily. So good to see you. Glad you could make it. Hope your Thanksgiving was very, very good. Travis Myers says, I think so. Big. Good. A lot of people saying hello to Emily. How could you not? Lance Chafin says, I had big steak and taters today at home. Sounds delicious. But again, sorry for your lack of camaraderie. Tom Laramie says Dean Martin roast has subtle, dirty humor. Yeah, a lot of innuendo there. The roasts today are just all out dirty. They are. They are, but they can still be clever. The acid test I always used was I forget the person who was discussing it, but they said, take, for example, Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor, Richard Pryor was an early shock comedian, but if you took all the naughty words out of Richard Pryor's act, he'd still be funny. It's when you take all the naughty words out and it's not funny, that's when you have to worry. So yeah, I don't mind blue humor as long as it's in the context of good humor. Terrell Eugene Bellinger, hey Teb, so good to see you. Says happy Thanksgiving, Thrash. My mom's still cooking dinner. Oh, that's if I remember correctly, you're on the other coast. You're in California, I'm guessing. So either way, it's kind of a late dinner. We ate. My wife has to work Black Friday. She still works in retail. I got out of that some time ago, but she's still in it. And they want her there for 4 a.m. They're opening the store at 5. And so she had to be there at 4 a.m. So she went to bed around 6 o'clock. That's why I'm having this. In fact, I think everyone in the house is asleep but me. My mom, well, my brother-in-law already went home, and I think my mom is crashed out too. She's in her um loft. We call it a reverse loft. She's in the lower level. It's a split level dungeon I live in. But regardless, since my wife had to crash early, there's no harm in me doing a live chat with you guys, and all you folks seem to be free, so we're off to a good start. Les Javin says, Happy Turkey Day, folks. Emily Miller says, we ate at my stepson's, so no leftovers here. Oh, I'm so sorry. I would have taken a little with me. Daryl Johnson says, what Beatles movie? Yellow Submarine. TV station, local TV station out of Boston. Apparently, the programming director was a Beatles fan. So on Thanksgiving, every year for years, WLVI would show first Yellow Submarine and then Help. I usually fell asleep in the first reel of Help. I was a kid at the time, but every year around when everyone was wrapping up, going home, whatever, I'd curl up on my grandmother's couch and watch Yellow Submarine. It became my tradition for years. Um. Liz Chafin says, how is Emily doing? She seems to be doing okay. Keithy says, the other two rings of marriage are the boxing ring and the philandering. You had a much unhealthier marriage than I did. Emily Miller says, I'm watching They Live. Haven't seen it since it first hit VHS. Love, love, love that movie. Rest in peace, Mr. Piper. And Keith David is a national treasure. He really is. He does the voice of the president in Rick and Morty. For all you Rick and Morty fans out there. Evan Miller says Lan's still trying to get over eating too much. Keithy says, Emily, it worked. I mentioned your name to the guard at the facility, and he said, you know, Emily will let you out. Really? Okay. I don't know. Apparently, I missed something. Trader Meyer says, no more food for me. LOL. Ever? Emily Miller says, Keith, they all know me. Lance Chafin says, Tracy, eat some more. A lot of people having fellowship. Keithy says, you were on fire the other night, Emily. Very funny. You were, Emily. You were a machine the other night. We were having trouble keeping up with you. You were absolutely hysterical. Tom says, Thrash, where's your wizard's piece? As you remember, there were like 3 or 4 really good projects that I was trying to put together. Ones that I feel should have like graphics and things that this archaic PC just wouldn't be up for. I was going to get a laptop for my birthday, but they were on sale and then suddenly went up in price. I heard that the grapevine laptops, the one I need, because I need a good one, the one I need might be going on sale on Cyber Monday. Keeping your fingers crossing. So I'm hoping. Let's just say the way things are going, I'll probably have it up and going sometime in December. Oh, and I need to pick your brains, by the way. I love the info you gave me on the animation, but I have some other questions that I wanted to ask you about wizards and a couple other. I'm gonna have to go through some of my other old live chats to find out what some of these projects are. Tom Lemmy says, "Hope you all had a great Thanksgiving." Hungry Jerk says, "Hey to Lance. Daryl says, hey to Tom, love you, loving fellowship. Emily Lewis says, I had a big crush on Roddy Piper. I think it was the kilt and bagpipes. So funny. When I was, well, we're about the same age. I'm a couple years older than you are. But I remember Roddy. You remember when Roddy Piper was with the WWF? It's a WWE, and that was WWF back then. He was the consummate bad guy. He would have people on his show, and he had like that little talk show thing that he did, and he would like hit them over the head with coconuts and stuff. It was crazy, and he was literally the man you love to hate. Um, he even betrayed Lou Albano, and Lou Albano was the original guy you love to hate in the WWF. And but it's funny, I guess he changed that out of the blue. Sadly, his kids were getting harassed in school because a lot of people don't realize that it's all. I am not saying it's fake. I will not. I will go to the record saying it's not fake. But a lot of the drama is staged. Um, Piper is not a bad person. He was acting like a bad person, but a lot of people were starting to bully his kids, so he became a good guy. So his kids' friends would like them and not beat them up. Similar experience with when Sergeant Slaughter became a mercenary for Saddam Hussein during First Gulf. He was getting death threats. He would try to eat in a restaurant, and they would throw him out. It was because he was doing this. Anyway, don't get me started. I could do a whole show on that. Emily, you want to join me for that? I could do a whole show on that. Oh, let's see. Tom says I wear a kilt sometimes. A plaid skirt is not a kilt. Sorry. Lance Javen says Emily Meg Foster had those eyes. Let's see. Oop, I just jumped again. Emily says, "Really hungry? What tartan?" John Doe says, "Dice Clay, Sam Kinison, George Carlin, and John Belushi are the masters of the blue humor." Certainly, you've hit the nail on the head there. Or, of course, you left out their patron saint. You left out Lenny Bruce. He's the one who virtually started it all. Lance Javen says, "Piper's Pit." Thank you, thank you. I remember the show, but I couldn't remember what he called it. Um, Tom says it's a green black generic version. Sounds fetching. Big Guys 45 is back. I was going to post my Beatles book thing in a bit. Hold on. We are holding on. Uh, Steve, here you go. Steve says, you know that wrestling is fake. He said it, I didn't. He said it, I didn't. I saw a brawl break out in the bar I was working at once because somebody inferred somebody else was saying that. Emma Miller says, "Oh, not a particular clan." Never use that word on this channel. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Lance Javen says, "Emily Miller, they live is on to be or not to be." Let's see. Emma Miller says, "Same thing with Ric Flair. He had to separate from his family." Really? I did not. I believe that. I did not know that. Denny Staten is a big Ric Flair fan. He just posted a video on Ric Flair. I haven't had a chance to see it yet, but I saw it was Ric Flair. My favorite was Tony Atlas. Does anybody remember Tony Atlas? He was actually rivals with Jesse Ventura for a while, but I had some other favorites. But of course, I'm going back 40 years. I was a kid. Let's just see. John Doe says only one he hit in the head with the coconut was Superfly Jimmy Snuka, and then he ran away because he was so scared of what he did. It was Superfly Jimmy Snuka. He did hit others on his show, but he did the whole "You want a coconut? You want a coconut?" Yeah. I remember it was Jimmy Superfly. Jimmy Superfly had such a tough time. I remember he left Lou Albano to join. Oh, don't tell me. Don't tell me. The guy who always called people super pencil neck geek. But anyway, Lou Albano beat him up too. Sucker punched him. Emily Miller says, "Hungry. I have a few things of Buchanan clan because for years my mom swore we were descendants. We're not. Oh, bummer. Lance Javen says, "Remember Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling cartoon?" I was in college at that time. I had tuned out by that time. I was watching wrestling early to mid '80s. Mostly when I was in middle school. But of course, uh, can't believe I can't think of his name. The gentleman who has been running the show for 40 years and still does. Uh, him, he used to own a place called the Cape Cod Coliseum. So he used to bring in the best talent there for a small venue. Cape Cod had some very, 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 very good talent. So I used to go to those when I was a kid. Sorry, parched. Vince McMahon. I knew it would come to me sooner or later. Vince McMahon. Let's just see. Remember when John Stossel got slapped? I don't, but I'm sure it happened. Oh, Rezzy's in the house. Rez, welcome back. Big Van Vader. Not ringing a bell, but of course we're going back 40 years. But anyway, Rezzy, happy Thanksgiving. Glad you could make it. Emily Mo says, I need to watch Dan's video. My dad was a huge wrestling fan. I met a lot of those guys when I was a kid. Um, you know what I met most of them? I met most of them actually when I was working for Suncoast Video. We'd go to those national conventions, and Vince McMahon had huge deals with my company to promote their home wrestling tapes for WrestleMania and those types of things. And I met Al Snow. Um, he was one of the biggies I met, but I met some others as well. Oh, Hillbilly Jim Duggan. He was like their promoter. He was their impresario. He had retired and did promotions. That was his job. And he's a wicked nice guy. Uh, I lost my place here. Tracy Romano says Stossel is just like Geraldo Rivera. Daryl Jones says, remember Baron Von Raschke and the Brain Claw? I don't. Uh, Classy Freddie Blassie. Thank you, Lance Javen. Classy Freddie Blassie said, you pencil neck geeks. Yes. I actually have on one of my Dr. Demento albums, he actually sings the song Pencil Neck Geek. John Doe says, I like Nick Brockwinkle. Teb says, what are your thoughts on the tragedy that happened at the Colorado Springs nightclub a few days ago? It is an absolute shame. All mass shootings, all killings, and even the small individual killings are very, 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 very sad. There was a case here in a mall my aunt goes to where they haven't figured out what the motive was yet, but a man in a car he hit the gas and drove through a plate glass window in an Apple store, jacked up about 16, 17 people and killed one. Very, very sad. All these acts of violence are, well, they're really bringing me down. Resi says the Samoan SWAT team and the Doom tag teams. Emily says off topic, but if you're on Twitter and you like a tweet with Happy Thanksgiving, a turkey pops up in the place of a heart. Oh, that's cute. Hungry Jerk says my friend Johnny Legend co-wrote Pencil and Geek. Oh, I never knew that. That's an awesome fun fact. Ken Wilkinson in the house. Good evening, Thrash. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you, Keith. So glad to have you here. A lot of people having fellowship. I'm trying to catch up. I don't get too far behind like I always do. John Doe says, and he introduced Hulk Hogan to the WWF crowd. I didn't know that either. Momo says, Terrell, I have a few words about the culprit and his dad, but I can't say them here. You can say whatever you feel like saying, Emily, but I understand if you're trying to be discreet. But again, that action it's reprehensible, absolutely reprehensible. And well, one thing I will say, the way some people feel about it disgusts me. Absolutely disgusts me. People died, and I don't think that should be politicized. People died, and it's a shame. Was it Hemingway said, "Every man's death diminishes me because I am a part of humanity." So ask not for whom the bell tolls; it tolls for thee. And you'll excuse me, I try really hard not to get maudlin on this channel. Um, okay, Kenny Wilkinson says, I met Linda McMahon Thrash. Supposedly, I went to summer camp with the son. I don't really remember him. I really don't. But supposedly, because someone else I went to summer camp reminded me of it. I'm like, did we? I'm like, okay, but I don't remember him. Steve says another wrestler from the old days was Haystack Calhoun. I remember Haystack Calhoun. Teb says, what are your thoughts on the Jason David Frank passing? If you don't know who he was the original Green Ranger of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. That also was a very, very tragic situation. In case you hadn't heard, people, and I try to steer clear of this topic on my channel, but for the purposes of this memorial, I will make an exception. Mr. Frank took his own life. And again, that depresses me unutterably. There are always better solutions, I think, and I wish there was someone there who maybe could have explained that to Mr. Frank at the time. Where I heard it put best, and it sounds a little glib, but it's really not. They say that is it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem, and I'm sure he could have come up with a better solution to what he was going through at the time. But in any case, rest in peace, Mr. Frank. As you folks know, I went to school with a coworker of his, the Pink Ranger, is a graduate of the same high school I went to. GR says I met Chief Wahoo McDaniel, RIP, when he was wrestling at the San Antonio Hemisphere Arena back in 1980. Excellent. Lance Chavin says King Kong Bundy, another good one. Emily Miller just jumped off the screen. My dad invited wrestlers and NASCAR drivers to the house, and they came over. I don't know what my dad had to do with these guys, but it was weird having them in the house. Was your dad some type of promoter of some kind? What did your dad do for a living? We'll put it that way. Lance Chapin says message retracted, and a message retracted to you as well. Big Guy says my video was done. Was gonna post a thumbnail with it too. I'm sure it'll come out very nice. John Doe says little known secret Chief Jay Strongbow is actually Italian, not Indian. I knew that. I met him once too at Cape Cod. Resi says love Jim Cornetta back in the day. I don't remember him with his loaded tennis racket and his hilarious podcast today. I have to check him out. Not familiar with him. Emily Miller says John, many of the wrestlers didn't dress their ethnicity. Steve says message retracted, and a message retracted to you. Emily Miller says the Colorado and Pulse incidents might give you an idea of how life is for me, my wife, and many of our friends. It does. I won't diminish it by saying I understand, but you were one of the first people I thought of, even though you weren't in Colorado. It did make me think of you, and more's the pity. Daryl Johnson says, "Well, you went to summer camp. My summer camp was picking strawberries." It wasn't like an away camp. It was a day camp, and it was more because my mother didn't want me running around the neighborhood all summer long unattended because she had to work. Resi says a Tarantino wrestling movie would be dope. You know what? It probably would. Tug is in the house with many claps, and many claps to you, by the way. Tug, don't know if you checked your Patreon lately, but if you have any new people who've joined your Patreon membership, congratulations. Emil Miller says BRB. We'll be here waiting for you. A lot of people saying hi to Tug. Terrell Eugene Bellinger says no love for Paul, Mr. Wonderful, Orndorff. He actually wrestled Tony Ellis and he lost. Les Chafin says Big John Studd. I remember him. Juan Jimmy says Andre the Giant. How could you not remember him? Les Chafin says Bam Bam Bigelow. Yep. John Doe says Mr. Wonderful is simply wonderful. R.I.P. I did not know he had passed on. Lance Chafin says Lex Luger. I remember him. John Doe says Lex was a bad wrestler, had a body, but no, not the talent. A lot of them actually were bodybuilders, and it was just a way to showcase their bigness. Tug says, "Oh snap! Look at that! Some Robert fellow signed up." I finally got around to joining Patreon, and you were one of the people who more than deserved my patronage, shall we say. You're very, very, very welcome. Thank you for your wonderful content. And while we're on the subject, to all of those of you who have not checked out The Unapologetic Geek, you've got to. He puts out some absolutely amazing retrospects. Please check him out. He and I have that project coming this Sunday. I have sat through 3 of the 4 um, uh, renditions of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Guess what the topic is? Yes, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I even read the book. You know this. You're gonna like laugh at me. I hadn't actually read the book. I'd only seen the movies. I went out and read the book just for the purposes of this project. The things I won't do for you guys. But anyway, Tug and I have a the Unapologetic Geek, and I am joining him. We're going to be doing a project this Sunday on Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Didn't see the Invasion. I don't think it counts, but I have a lot of other material, by the way. Resi says Jim Cornette was a wrestling manager with the tennis racket who gave the best promos and worked in almost all the wrestling promotions. He is very, very forthright in his opinions. What do you mean says Junkyard Dog? Tom says I only watched wrestling in elementary school. Les Chafin says Tito Santana. I remember him. What do you mean says Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Steve says if you don't remember the Iron Sheik, you're a jabroni. I remember the Iron Sheik. Didn't he get busted? I want to say if it wasn't him, I apologize. But there was a case when I was in high school. 2 wrestlers, and I think it was in Massachusetts, were leaving a venue, and it's funny because they were rivals, but they were in a car at a rest area doing blow off the dashboard. State trooper catches them, and the big thing wasn't even the drug charge. It was the fact that everyone says, "What is he doing with him? They're enemies." They're and if it's not the Iron Sheik, I do apologize, but I do remember the Iron Sheik. Skipping down. Tug says, "Excellent Thrash doing his homework." Yeah. Emily says, "Hey guys, I'll be back in a bit. Family emergency. Oh, family emergency. Emily, please take care. We'll be here when you get back. Hope everything is okay." A lot of people sharing my sentiment. Tug says, "Yeah, you can skip the invasion. They don't actually snatch bodies, so it doesn't count. Thank you." I tried watching it years ago, and I'm just like, I just couldn't. I'm like, it's like that old song by the Fools. I can't keep my mind on you. John Doe says Iron Sheik and Jim Duggan. Were those the 2? Thank you. Again, I'm going back over 30 years. But I remember it was a huge wrestling sort of ooh. Teb says, "Do you remember when Boston WCVB Channel 5, an ABC affiliate, had an original local sitcom that aired back in the 70s called Park Street Under, which is supposedly the inspiration for Cheers. I remember Channel 5 had its local programming. It was almost like something you would have seen, almost like stage plays. But I remember they had like one. It was a family dramedy. But I think the sister went deaf was the big drama among others they had. I don't remember Park Street Under off the top of my head. I may have seen it, but I don't recall. But I do remember CVB did do some local programming. That used to be cool. The local stations would actually have their own little shows. Let's see. Resi says the Iron Sheik is hilarious. I remember his scoreboards being used in those ventrilo harassment videos back in YouTube's heyday back in 07-08. I don't recall that, but I can certainly see that. I'm sorry. Family members on Facebook saying Happy Thanksgiving. So if I keep going blip, forgive me. Uh, Talmud says hi Ken, Tug, Life, John Doe, Resi, and anyone I missed. I'm gonna have to start doing that too. The other day when I was on Dave's um show, a lot of people did like a shout out hello to me, and I spent about 12 minutes individually saying hello, blank, hello, blank, hello. So I think someday we have to go to. Teb says the Baxters was the family dramedy. Yes, 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 it was. Thank you. Yeah, the sister went deaf, and she ended up going to school for deaf and marrying, I think, a boy who at the school. Anyway, I can't remember a lot of the dramas, but yes, Patricia. I'm gonna butcher your last name. I apologize. Winsler says happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Patricia, thank you so much for joining us. Glad you could make it. Don't forget like and subscribe. I hope you had a very nice Thanksgiving, and again, thank you for joining us. Uh, Ken says I like Miss Elizabeth and Scary Sherry. Tell Nermy says matter of fact, Andre the Giant was on $6 Million Man. Yes, and I believe he was on BG and the Bear once too. I believe he played a truck driver in that once as well. I think. I think. One of my neighbors was a huge fan, so anytime the Giant was on anything, I heard about it. Emma Miller says can't reach the family members, so I might as well be here. That's the spirit. But keep us posted, and if there's anything we can do, I don't know what that could be, but I hope everything goes well. Tom says the Bay Area had great local programming in the 70s and 80s. A lot of local TV stations did. Channel 38 up here in New England had something called the Movie Loft with Dana Hersey, and he presented a lot of classic movies, but did like not as a watch through, but he would bookend the commercials and give fun facts and stuff. And you felt like you were watching the movie with somebody. Keith says the Undertaker is mayor of the county next to me in Tennessee. Um, the Undertaker was one of my daughter's favorite wrestlers when she was a kid. Teb says even though his legacy was forever tarnished, I would have said that Jimmy Snuka was the best. He was a phenomenal performer. He certainly was. Liz Javen says NWO for life. Big Guy says I'm trying to reach 850 subs by the end of November, hopefully. Wish you all the luck in the world. And then ask all your subscribers to subscribe to me. And I will exploit your subscriptions. Patricia says hitting the like button now. Thank you so much, Patricia. And again, welcome to the party, and I hope you had a nice Thanksgiving. Tug says good luck getting there, big guys. Resi says I love wrestling and its rich history and jargon which seeps into mainstream culture. Are you a big fan of prank phone calls too? Not in the age of caller ID now. When I was a kid, I must confess, we did a few prank phone calls. Little scamp that I was. Emily Miller says Tug's sister-in-law is in the hospital. Pneumonia, both lungs Crap on a cracker. Kidneys and liver functions are shutting down. Oh dear. O2 is dropping. Wife is there with her. Oh wow. I am so so sorry. Yes, let's all have a moment of silence for Emily. Oh well, for Emily's family member and give a little prayer. Thank you. Steve says, Jug, take a slug to quench your mug, but don't spill it on the rug. I got laminates, but you're right, my throat is getting a little parched again. So I shall have some very, very, very flat orange aid of the generic variety. Tom says, I was on the Major Mud show in Boston in 1970. That was actually, for those of you who don't understand, Major Mud was a huge deal in New England at that time. He died, I want to say, in 79. But anyway, that was like a really big deal for a kid to be on the Major Mud show. Anybody remember Jack McCarthy? Big guy says, the unapologetic geek. I don't remember if you follow me or not. Not begging, of course, but be very much appreciated. That LOL. Yeah, we're doing a lot of cross promotion today. Big guys, I don't feel subconscious. How many people have I asked to join me tonight? Oh, Tug says I don't think so, but I'll make sure. Big guys, that's very kind of you. Emily Miller says, thanks, guys. With her age, health, and size, it doesn't look good. We're very sorry. And as Steve says, prayers. Yes, we will continue to pray. Let's see. Les Chafin says, love you, Emily. I'm here for you. I think that goes for all of us. Oh, Tug says, yes, big guy, I am subbed. Yay. Emily Miller says, didn't mean to bring you everyone down. You didn't bring us down. We're a community. And if anything, it lifts us up when we can help one another at the risk of getting a little soppy. So, no, Emily, you did not bring us down. We're just, well, we're kind of honored that you would like us to be there for you. And that goes for, I'm speaking on everyone's behalf, so I'd like to think that everybody shares. But again, on behalf of the community, we like to be here for each other. Teb says, who's your favorite Boston personality of all time? I would probably have to go with Dave Maynard. I loved Dave Maynard when I was a kid. Um, Other than that, there were some others. But again, I love Dave Maynard. Oh, Willie Whistle was kind of cool. Resi says life needs silliness and comedy to balance out all the tragedy and pain. It keeps us going. Well said. John Collins is here. John Collins, happy Thanksgiving. And John Collins says, hello, my friends. How are you tonight? Bob, I was just calling to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. However, I'm sure you were undulated with busyness today. I was kind of busy today. Oh, and by the way, I saw that you called me last night. I was still at work. I'm so sorry. I meant to call you later, and I got to tell you, I got home. I crashed as I always do, and of course, today was kind of crazy. Um, Try to get back to you maybe tomorrow or Saturday. One thing I got to tell you though is for those who are on Facebook, check this out as well. I had my wife check out your Facebook page, and she absolutely loved it. It's all about trying to make this country a better place with the ballot box. That's a horrible paraphrasing, John, but I think you know what I'm talking about. So, to those of you on Facebook, please go on John Collins' page and read the simple things he asks people to do that we can all do to try to make this country a place to be proud of. But again, my wife loved it, and I wanted to pass on her thanks. Tug says, Emily, I'd rather people share when things are on their minds than bottle it up. We're all virtual friends here. Well said. Emily Murray says, thank you all so much. Big Guy 25 says, John Collins, hi, just curious, do you follow me? LOL, sorry, my mind isn't all there all of the time. It seems pretty sharp to me. A lot of people saying hi to John and Tracy. Steve says each regional area had their own kid shows and scare hosts. In southern Indiana back in the 60s, we had Uncle Al, Cowboy Bob, and Janie. And on Friday night, late, it was Sammy Terry. Speaking of horror shows, and other TV personalities, Dale Dorman was a huge, huge personality at the time. I don't think he ever did the horror show. Ron Dwyer did. I actually met Ron. Ron Dwyer used to come into my Suncoast all the time. Huge movie buff. Very nice guy. Did some great impersonation too. But he briefly did creature feature on in WLVI. Actually, Dale Dorman did. I remember now. Dale Dorman did. And here's one for you. Channel 38 had its own late night horror show for a while. Which the name of it eludes me. I'm sure it'll come to me later on. But Lenny Clark, the comedian, he had his own TV show for a while. He hosted it for a couple of years, and Charles Laquadera, who was one of the biggest Boston DJs in my young life. So speaking of just horror movies, I thought I'd throw those names out there. Any of you from New England, I'm sure, would have heard of at least some of them. Keithy says, Tracy, 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 message to the first time. Gotcha. Teb says here in Philly back in the 70s, WPHL Channel 17 had Dr. Shock. John Doe says, when my mom was in the hospital and her organs were shutting down, I told the doctors when the Grim Reaper calls, you will answer. It broke the doctors, and I left to grieve in private. Very sad, John Doe. I'm sorry for your loss. Tug says somebody here has terrible posture. I have a hunch it might be me, but I'm bummed. Oh, by the way, did I tell you? I went a couple days ago. I went and I read my pocket dictionary. It was a great book, but a little wordy. Tom Memory says anybody old enough to remember Gorgeous George? My grandfather. I've heard of him, but my grandfather, I believe, remembered him when he wrestled. Daryl Johnson says, I'm out of here. Y'all have a great night. Stay safe and be kind to others. Laters. Daryl, thanks for stopping by. Sorry you gotta go. But anyway, have a great one. Have the great rest of your turkey day. And we'll see you really soon. Peace and chicken grease. Or should I say turkey grease today? Liz James says George the Animal Steel. Oh, I still remember him. Teb says, have you heard of Philadelphia WKBS Channel 48, which was sadly shut down in '83? I have. I can't remember why I'd heard of it, but I have. Resi says whether it's wrestling, horror, hip hop, jazz, opera, comic books, or whatever, it's valuable to dabble in culture you might think you wouldn't like. There's a whole world of culture out there. Too true, too true. I think every form of entertainment has some value. Um, I don't appreciate all of it, and so it's sort of like a buffet. But it's silly to write something off before you've at least sampled it. I remember I had a friend. Well, of course, I'm a movie buff, as you know, and a lot of my friends were movie buffs, and movie buffs can be incredible snobs, incredible. And I had this one friend, and I asked him if he had seen this movie, and he's like, "I'm not gonna watch that piece of crap." And I'm like, "Why? Did you even see a trailer for it?" No, but it's called blah blah blah. And I'm like, "So forget you can't judge a book by its cover. You're judging a book because you don't like the sound of its title, dude. And you call yourself a movie buff? Crazy." Oh, speaking of which, it's Turkey Day. Anybody's favorite turkeys? I had another project here which I had to put a hold on, but someone have been peoples have been asking me to do a compilation of good turkey movies, and one of the best ones is movies that were really bad, but somehow ended up becoming cult films and making a lot of money. And there are some really good selections here, and I'm going to put that together very, 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 very soon. Oh, Tom says my aunt used to date the original killer Kowalski. Wow, that's interesting. I didn't know there was more than one, but um, Tug says culture like yogurt. Oh, here we go again. Liz David says Tug, no yogurt talk, really. Emma Miller says sis-in-law just tested positive for COVID. On top of everything else? Oh, oh, Emily, I'm so 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 sorry. Resi says Thrash Pondo Ponds. It's a specific message. Totally agree. Snobbery drives me crazy, but you can still have taste and be critical without looking down on anything too much. Oh no, I couldn't agree with you more. Criticizing stuff is fun, whether you're criticizing it in a positive manner or even as a negative manner. It's actually really fun to break things down and be critical of them. Particularly when you have valid opinions on them. But again, there's a difference between being critical of something and having just open hostility. So I could agree with you more. Trader Rosmeyer says Culture Club. Not on my channel. Thank you. Tug says, do you really want to hurt me? You see? What are you, a karma chameleon? Ah, Lance beat me to it. Emil Miller says, I was into Culture Club for a while. A lot of people were in the early mid 80s. Tug says, I nitpick the things I love the most. Well said. Keithy says another topic that went wild was a few weeks back when I mentioned Pop Tarts. Well, because who doesn't love Pop Tarts? Tom Lemery says it was a 3-hour discussion on it, Emily. Retro Nerd Girl is in the house, says, hey, Thrash Pond of Ponds. Retro Nerd Girl, thank you so much for joining us. Happy Thanksgiving. And you know what I'm about to say, guys. If you haven't checked out Retro Nerd Girl's channel, please do. Like, subscribe to her. She's putting out some absolutely amazing material. Retrospect film reviews, which are some of the most comprehensive and entertaining projects I've seen on YouTube today. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if you checked your Patreon lately, but YouTube might just have another Patreon member. Just saying. But thank you so much for joining us. Steve says no good music from the 80s. Okay, you just threw the gauntlet down. Them's fighting words in this household. The 80s were the last good decade for music. And a few bad examples aside, there was some incredible music that came out in the 80s. And I am unanimous in that. A lot of people saying hi and having fellowship. John Doe refers to Pop Tarts as frosted cardboard. Emily Miller says, bite your tongue, sad life. Thank you, Emily. Tug says her channel is awesome. Can attest. Indeed, Tug. Yes, Retro Nerd Girl's channel is awesome. Retro Nerd Girl says, oh, thank you so much, Thrash. Well, again, as always, thank you for the amazing content. Keith, he says, Nerd Girl, I haven't had a chance to look at your Planet of the Apes video yet, but looking forward to it. Definitely check it out. Les David says, Steve, them's fighting words. The 80s rocked. Yeah, Steve, not trying to gang up on you, but I think you may have bitten off a little more than you could chew on this one. Resi says, although I grew up mostly in the 80s, I cannot stand most of the mainstream music of that era. Well, that was the great thing about the 80s. The best music from the 80s was the whole underground scene. I love, well, of course, I was going to the college at the time. Well, for half of it. And so I was listening to college radio, and there was some really, really great stuff that was coming out at that time. John Doe says 80s the best of everything, including yogurt. Were there yogurt innovations in the 80s? That I can attest to. Steve is laughing at us. LOL. Uh, Tug says, I'm trying not to judge, but there are some questionable opinions being thrown around. Um, aren't there always? Let's just see. Emily Miller says Pop Tarts are flavored frosted cardboard. That's what the vote for no on Pop Tarts. Resi says I had only just fallen in love with disco when it died. Yeah, that one came and went, huh? Life and Said Ending says name one good 80s song. Shock the Monkey by Peter Gabriel. Um uh Anything by you too, but I'll start with Sunday Bloody Sunday. Um let's see REM's first album. You want more or is that good? Drithers Meyer says REM was good. Les Chapin says Jesse's Girl. Steve, that was a good song. John Collins says, Bob, please tell your wife thank you for me, and I'll take it as praise from Caesars. Oh, thank you very much. Or whatever the female tense for Caesar is, LOL. Caesarea. I'm sure you'll find it interesting also when you read it. I did read it. I did read it. Oh, didn't I tell you that? I read it and then got her to read it. I'm sorry. In fact, didn't I send you a comment on it? I thought I read it and gave you a comment. Or maybe I gave you a comment on one and not the other, but I've read the two things on Facebook you've asked me to look at, I've read both of them. But you know what? I'm going to read it again now. Just to save it play. Big S45 says Life and Said and Come On Arlene by Dexy's Midnight Runners. A very, very, very catchy hit. Lance Jafin says The Safety Dance by Men Without Hate. The band was originally called Men Without Hate, but when they pressed the album, there was a misprint, so it became Men Without Hats, and they couldn't afford to redo the album cover. And they said, you know what? Heck with it. It's a catchy name. John Dose has been rewatching. Tux has too many great hits songs, 80s songs to list. My list of bad ones is shorter. Very good. Emil Miller says Talking Heads, and She Was. Emil Miller says She's. Just name any 80s group, and they all had at least one good song. Resi says Run DMC. It's tricky. Penn and Teller are in that video. It's priceless. Tom Laramie, Princess 1999, or Little Red Corvette, or When Doves Cry. Tom says 70s music is the best. Rock, pop, country, R&B. Well, yes, I will grant you 70s was an absolutely incredible decade for music. But the 80s had some really good stuff too. She's a Beauty of the Tubes, a little tip of the hat to Dave. That was his favorite band, at least in the 80s. Retro Nerd Girl says I used to love Madonna in the 80s. She had some great albums in the 80s. She really did. I had at least two of them. I had Holiday, and I forget what the other one was, but maybe I just had Holiday. But regardless, Lance Chafin, Rock Me Amadeus. I had that album too. I had Falco's. Oh, what album was that? But anyway, yeah, I was going through a whole drink culture phase, so I had that, and I had Peter Schilling's album as well. But I love Falco at the time. Jenny, quit living on dreams. John Doe, been rewatching Live Aid. Haven't seen it since it first showed back in the 80s. I was around maybe 9. I would have been 17, I want to say. Uh, Tom Lemery says, against all odds, Phil Collins. Okay. My first girlfriend, that was our song. John Collins says anything pop rock in the 80s from any British rock band. I mean, let's be serious. MTV, when they made it, if it wasn't for the second British invasion of the early 1980s, you're right, there were a lot of really great, amazing English groups that came out around then. Tom says, can't stand U2 and REM. Free country, free country. I saw REM live twice, but a free country. Emily says, Lance, I have that on my playlist. Tug says almost anything by Duran Duran, Tears for Fears. They had one really big hit, in my opinion, but a gun to own their each. U2, In Excess, Depeche Mode, etc., 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 etc. Length Chafin says Into the Groove. I think I had that on extended play. Um, and she did two songs for what was that movie that I love? Vision Quest. She actually signed the contract to do Vision Quest before she became really big. 'Cause I remember seeing Vision Quest in the theaters going, how did they get Madonna, to just do a couple of songs for them? It's because they had her signature on a contract. Emily says, not like a virgin, but rock me Amadeus. Oh, okay. I'm with you. I'm with you. Teb says, what's your favorite song from Michael Jackson's iconic Thriller album, which turns 40 this year? I'll be honest with you. I'm a bigger fan of Michael Jackson when he was with the Jackson 5. But if I had to pick a Michael Jackson song, um, I always had the thing for "Dirty Diana" for some reason. I just thought it was hopelessly catchy. Um, but really, the best things I think he was doing at the time, he was doing those collaborations with Paul McCartney. Didn't they do an album together? I believe they did a whole album together. But anyway, uh, um, Billie Jean, I think was a really good one. But again, I'm a fan of old Motown, so I'm still gonna go back to Jackson 5. Tom says Falco's on my playlist too. Lance Chavis says 99 Luftballons by Nana. She was so cute. Uh, Steve says, Hungry Jerk. At least someone knows good music. Lance Chavis says Rapture Blondie. I actually saw Blondie in Minneapolis in 2000. She put on an amazing show. Keithy says in 1980, I worked at the Ramada on the New Jersey Turnpike and checked in Bon Jovi. Uh, all the time. Well, that's actually really cool. Richard Nurgle says Michael Jackson was the king of pop then. Yes, he was. He certainly was. Tom Laramie says Borderline Madonna. Yeah, it's a very catchy tune. Lance Chavin says Metro Berlin. I loved Berlin. I thought Berlin was amazing. Big guys, didn't you just play a a Berlin song and you were kind of blushing when you did it? It was their song. Sex. Liz Chafin says missing person destinations unknown. Do you know missing persons? The first big gig Weird Al Yankovic got was he opened for Missing Persons. It was not a success. Doug says Billy Idol, Bon Jovi, Tom Petty, and The Cure. All amazing stuff. Returner Gill says, "Oh, thank you, two big S45s." John Doe just jumped off the page. Give me a second. Wasn't into new wave, but was really into arena rock. Emily Miller says Bowie, Heart, GNR, Cinderella, Whitesnake, Aha, Rick Astley. Kind of all over the place there, but you had some great music there, I must confess. Steve says, Message Retracted. A message retracted to you as well. Liz Chafin says, who can it be now, Men at Work? I saw them live at that Cape Cod Coliseum I was talking to you about. Tom says, I once seriously partied with John Bon Jovi and his crew. That must have been a blast. Tug says, oh yeah, how could I forget Bowie? I'm going senile, clearly. The problem with Bowie in the 80s is his biggest album Let's Dance was a contractual release slash money grab. Even he says it wasn't his best work. I liked Let's Dance. I thought it was great, but wasn't a huge fan of his cover of Dancing with the Streets with Mick Jagger. But that's another story. Lance Javen says, "Crazy for you, Vision Quest Thresh." Yes, Crazy for you, and she did two songs. Was Gambler the other one she did for Vision Quest? I love that movie. I love that movie when I saw it in the theaters. Of course, I was actually a jock at the time. I was not always this sort of let himself go middle-aged man you see now. I was in much better shape when I was like 16, 17. Believe it or not. Let's see. Oh, so let's just see. Candace Wilkinson says, "Good night, Emily." Oh, good night, Bob. Oh, Ken's taking off. Ken, have a great night. Ken, so glad you could join us tonight, by the way. Happy Thanksgiving. Resi says, "Off the Wall is my favorite Jacko album, but I Want You Back and ABC are classics." Definitely. Absolutely. Um, ABC, I Want You Back. What's the other one that I every time I hear it, I'm like, and I can't think, all I can think of now is I Want You Back. But there's another one they did too. But yes, just amazing, amazing stuff what the Jackson Five did, and they had their own cartoon show for a while. Les Chafin says the Buggles video killed the radio star. First single played on MTV when it went live. Ironically, isn't it? Uh, I just had something here by Tom Lermy, but it jumped. Oh wow, I'm a little behind. I'll try to catch up. Tom Lermy says Say," and "The Girl Is Mine." Paul McCartney and Michael songs. Were just those two? I thought there was more. John Doe says Thrash. Why not do a video series of the 100 best of the different types of movies? I did 100 once. I did when I hit my 100 subscribers. I did 100. 100 is just too much for people to absorb, even when you break it down in chunks of 10. I'd love to, but one of mine barely got double digits subs. It was just views. Just too much. I'm going to try to release it. Someone said, take your old movies or your old posts and give them new thumbnails. And people will check them out again. It could help your algorithm. And I might just do that. But that's the restaurant's gonna be closed for a couple weeks in the new year. They're remodeling the kitchen. Little project for then. But a great idea. I love it. Tug says Paul and Michael were good together. They certainly were. Lance James had a little red Corvette. Love that song. Uh, Tom says Nita had more hair under her pits than I do. That was very continental at the time. Number one dude in the house. Happy Thanksgiving, Thrash. I'm late. Didn't know you were on. So sorry, number one dude. Um, yeah, I know you have my old email address. Go on my channel, and there's a new one. I have a new one now for solely YouTube stuff. Sign up for that, and it'll be easier to stay in the proverbial loop. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. But don't worry, we'll be here for at least a bit longer. John Collins says, Bob, did you see my comment about your wife and her enjoyment of my Facebook post? Also, for anyone that wants to follow me on Facebook, I'm not always ranting, but I'm at my best when I'm ranting. Well, his ranting draws raves. I haven't seen it yet, but I will check it out. Thank you. And yes, check out John on Facebook. Emily Miller says, first time I ever got high, Twilight Zone was playing. I swear that one song was 2 hours long. That was the one by the same people who did I'm sorry, my brain is shutting down. Yes, I know the song Twilight Zone. Uh Good one. A lot of people saying hi and having fellowship. Tug says need you tonight, never tear us apart, and Mystify are my favorite NXS tracks. Big NXS fan, aren't we, Tug? Um Jonathan Chapin says, I want a new drug. Hulu's in the news. That was the song they ripped off when they did the Ghostbusters soundtrack. Reggie says, love the electric stuff of the 80s. Africa Bambata. Uh, Illinois says Lance, my cousin's ex-husband looked a lot like Huey Lewis. No kidding. Texas also, I have a soft spot for 80s prof rock like Yes and Rush, both good bands. Um, Prof didn't sound right. He corrects himself. Prague. Stupid autocorrect. Lance Chaffins just disappeared. Hang on, I'll find it again. Guys. I'm trying to catch up. Uh, wow, I am like way behind. Okay, here we are. Steve says, "Okay, I'll give you Bowie China Girl as a good 80s song." Okay, we got one at least. Thank you. And it's by Bowie, so great. A lot of people saying good night and having fellowship. And Luna says, Resi, do you receive a song with the words see the light, light, light? Hmm, I'll have to consider. Uh, uh, Les Javen said, Murray had one night in Bangkok. I play that routinely to this day. What you mean says Escape Club, Wild Wild West, living in the Wild Wild West, the Wild Wild West. Unapologetic Geek, Chicago with Peter Cetera. I'm a more of a Rob Lamb fan, but Peter Cetera did do a competent job. Steve says, "How about Michael's rat song, Ben?" Do you know what the story behind that is? When he was a kid, his father was funneling all their disposable income into their music careers. Right? He didn't let them have pets. There was a rat in their house that Michael had adopted as his pet rat who would sneak it food and whatnot. And the story goes one day the father saw it and squashed it, and this traumatized Michael for years. So when they were making the sequel to the movie Willard, which Michael saw and loved because of reasons that are all too clear, and they approached him to do song for it, he jumped at the chance. A retro nerd girl says ZZ Top had some really great ones. Yes, and sadly, all they ever play is Sharp Dressed Men. It's a pity because they actually had some great stuff. Um, Tug says, duh, Journey. Well, Tug, don't stop believing. And yes, I'm surprised it took us this long to think of it. Well, sometimes you can't see the forest through the bigger forest. Les Javen says, the vapors, I'm turning Japanese. Yeah, that's a good one. Let's see. I'm just skipping down because I'm really. Oh, I want to be a cowboy. Boy meets girl. I remember that one. I'm trying to catch up here. Keithy said, sending. I was thinking about the rat song myself, but I didn't want to mention it to. Well, it's okay. I did. Uh, uh, Liz Javen says, All Night Long, Little Richie. A lot of people having fellowship and suggesting other songs. Golden Earring, thank you. Golden Earring did Twilight Zone. Emily Miller says, I don't know because she just jumped off the page because I'm so far behind. Um, Between TikTok, Stranger Things, and Umbrella Academy, I add a lot of songs I've not heard in a while to my playlist. I can see that. I know everyone's so nostalgic because the 80s had such great music, didn't it? Uh, Red Nurgle says Jackson 5 song I loved was Don't Blame It on the Boogie. A little before 8079, yeah. Oh, Emily Lewis says Don't forget the Footloose soundtrack. Hey, what do you think about the sequel? Linda Chavin says Danger Zone! Um, Richard Nurgle says Cold as Ice by Foreigner. Great one. Tyler says Shake Your Body Down to the Ground. Jackson 5. Lance Chavin says Lunatic Fringe, which is actually based on a Ronald Reagan speech. A lot of people don't know that. Trey Meyer says Rob Lamb was great. Yes, he was. Children play in the dark. They don't know. Tom says my boss's wife used to be Huey Lewis's coke dealer. Lance Javen says we built this city. No, it's we built this Sunday on Rocky Road. Resi says, Emily Miller, that rings a bell. What is that song? Tug says, I unironically love Wake Me Up by Wham, and I will not apologize for it. It's a free country. I like some songs that are kind of, let's just say, out of character as well. It's a free country. And John Collins says, Bob, please tell your wife thank you for enjoyment of my Facebook post. And then I accept her enjoyment as praise from Caesars, or the correct female tense of Caesar is LOL. Let's give it this, pour some sugar on me. Sarita Abney in the house says, hello, everyone. Sarita, thank you for joining us. Hope you had a very good Thanksgiving. Emily Miller says, Resi, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I thought that's what she's asking, what the song is. My boyfriend at the time would take some things we won't talk about, but would play that music. Okay. um, let's just skipping down because I'm really trying to catch up. Tug says Lance Javen, a big fan of Def Leppard back in the day. Well, Photograph, another great song from the 80s. MZ. Oh, hello, MZ. MZ says, has anyone heard of gang stalkers? We have not. Gang stalking. No, we have not heard of that either. Liz Javen says, girls, girls, girls. Number one dude says, White Lines was fun. The song the song that is. Skipping down. John Doe says was into Motley Crue, Poison, Warrant, Iron Maiden, and of course Motorhead. I'll buy those. Emily Miller says a lot of great rap came out of the 80s. Certainly did. MZ says gang stalkers again. Not familiar with it. Teb says, didn't all of the Norman Lear's sitcoms help bridge the gap between Boomer TV and Gen X TV throughout the 70s when it comes to providing social commentary? Yes. It certainly did. Steve says, name a better 80s song than that can beat Hotel California. Off the top of my head, I can't. MZ says Alabama, as in Sweet Home Alabama. Skipping down, I think I'm really close to catching up. Richard Nurgle says, Tom Petty, you got lucky. I showed the video to a friend of mine, and she was amused that I was into something so different. Wasn't that the one? It was a post-apocalyptic video. They're this like post-apocalyptic uh, foragers, and they stumble upon an old arcade. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that was the one you're talking about. Reggie says you've no need to light a night light on a light night like tonight. For a night light lights a slight light, and tonight's a night that's light. MZ says, wow. Emily says, I dated a break dancer and listened to a lot of great music. Skipping down. MZ says, Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you, MZ. Yes, we're all doing a little post-Thanksgiving chat tonight. Richard Nurgle says, Emily Miller breakdancing was so exciting when it came out. They always danced to the best music. They certainly did. I saw breaking in the theaters. Steve says, can you believe Tom Petty is dead? Weird. I know, that's so sad. Emily says, Resi, techno, synth, or electro. One of those. Richard Nurgle says, yep, you are right about You Got Lucky. Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, they're like, no, nothing quite as bad as like Mad Max, but yeah, you could tell they have these pre like prefangled vehicles. They're sort of a post-apocalyptic biker group, and I thought it was actually kind of slick. Of course, that was a really big theme back then. Number one dude fighting through the tryptophan. Join the club. Emily Lewis says, MZ, I'm a Cap, Leo, Moon, Aquarius, Rising, same as David Bowie. Tug says, Tom Petty is dancing with the corpse of Kim Basinger in a video you don't forget. He was? Apparently I forgot. Tom Larry says, Herbie Hancock, Rocket during the breakdancing days. I'll buy that. Emily Lewis says, Retro Nerd Girl, he got mad at me once because I was more flexible than him. Cool. John Doe says, I remember in New York City, people was breaking their neck. Some died doing breakdancing. They was trying to ban it. Really? That sounds like an urban legend. Steve says, the unapologetic geek. Yes, I remember that. Huh. Liz Chapin says, don't come around here no more. Ah, was that the song? Tug says, I went to college in Gainesville and got to hang out in a lot of the places Petty sings about. No kidding. Keithy says, where are the bots? I'm glad you mentioned that. You said something about one of the guys on Facebook was either a bot or a racist, maybe. Was it that guy that sent me the link to what turned out to be a I don't know if it was a scam, but it certainly wasn't just a regular site. It was, but anyway, if that's what you're referring to, let me know. Big S25 says Hotel California is so bloody overplayed. It certainly is. Resi says Emily Miller, yes, one of those genres. I'm ignoring the tune right now to allow it to fully come back into my mind without forcing it. Sneaky technique of remembering. You are so right, because when I try to remember something too hard, like it just my brain shuts off. Tom Members is going to head out, maybe back. We'll be here theoretically, but either way, thanks for joining us. Have a great night. Tug says Herbie Hancock. Herbie Hancock is a friggin' legend. He's still growing strong. Emily says he was practicing his moves and I was more flexible. Mine's out of the gutter, y'all. You brought it up. Steve said bots. Fembots, okay. Wajabeen says, good night, Tom. MZ says, what's a bot? Lance Javen says, are you a bot? Trey the Reminder says, I like Dave Sundstrom's Fembots, yes, as well. Emily Miller says, I try not to use that technique to remember things. Oh, I'm sorry. I tried to use that technique to remember things, but I was afraid to use it because you're forcing yourself to remember. John Doe says it's not an urban legend. It was happening like other horror stories. I could say that's very sad. That's very sad. I hadn't heard that, or I don't recall that. I remember in Boston, kids used to like walk around with portable stereos and pieces of cardboard, and they'd flatten the cardboard down and they would dance to it to their own mixtapes. Richard Niggerl says Tom Petty music videos were incredible. One was an Alice in Wonderland theme for Don't Come Around Here No More. I remember that one. I remember that. Tug says we can't help it. The gutter is a fun place. Yeah, of course my mind is the gutter. It wants to be with my body. Tom says we had kids who carried around cardboards to school to breakdance during lunch. I'll believe that. I believe that. Number one dude says Mr. Roboto. Dobo arigato, Mr. Roboto. And Tug beat me to that. Sorry. Keithy says, I reported your bot on Facebook and they told me to mind my own business. It wasn't a bot, her Facebook. Oh, like I said, I don't think it was a bot. What I think that was is, and this happened to me once before. Someone asked if they could join my channel, and I said sure. And it turned out that they were selling diet pills, and they were using me as like one of their friends to sort of make it look like they were this big Facebook page, and um I unfriended. So I'm guessing it seemed like that was like some weird lottery, if it's the same one I'm thinking of. But regardless, they posted, but I didn't join. MZ says I was just listening to that on the Christian radio. Not sure which song you're referring to, but you go. Resi says Tony Basil has bridged decades of underground and mainstream music genres. She's a legend. She has her own YouTube page. You know that? She shows clips of like some of the early stuff she performed in and or choreographed. And you know who her best friend is? Terry Garr. Terry Garr got her start as like a background dancer in like Hullabaloo and those old beach movies and whatnot. Learning to fly. Lance Stevens says learning to fly. I loved learning to fly, and I love that video, learning to fly. Emily Miller says, Reggie, I refuse to admit that I have Hey Mickey on my playlist. Richard Nurgle says, oh yeah, Teresa Russ Myers, I still have some mixtapes. I have a box of mixtapes in what I refer to as the Harry Potter room. That's the big closet I have under my stairs. Steve says diet pills. I'm in. Tug says Pink Floyd. Lance, I am an enormous Pink Floyd fan. I asked because there's multiple charted pop songs with the name "Learning to Fly." Oh yeah, wasn't that a single by Dave Gilmour? Um, but yeah, they're referring, of course, more to the Tom Petty song. But of course, as you've seen in my garage, I have that huge uh, Pink Floyd The Wall poster. I've been a huge fan of Pink Floyd since I was like in high school. Rosie says, Emily Miller, it does appear to be bubblegum trash, but hey, Mickey incorporated a lot of cutting edge stuff. She's an excellent body popper too. Tug says, ooh, I need a dirty woman. uh, um, Number one dude says Gary Glitter, rock and roll. Les Javen says, oh, I need a dirty girl from the Pink Floyd The Wall album. Uh, let's just see what else we got here. I totally agree, Resi. Emily Miller, thank you. Oh, number one dude says Baltimora, Tarzan boy. That was in the Listerine commercial, if I remember correctly. Let's see. John Doe says, speaking of Gary Glitter, does anybody know how long he got locked up? That's right. He got yeah. No, I don't. I think it was like 20 years. It was something ridiculous. Tug says, I gotta go soon. Losing the battle with the tryptophan. Well, guys, we're coming up on 10 o'clock, and I know you hate it when I wrap things up, but I think much as I've absolutely loved this chat, I'm so glad so many of you could actually make it. I figured it would just be a few of us chit chatting. I didn't realize we were gonna have so many people. And that's just great, and I appreciate every single one of you. But I think we can wrap things up for 10 o'clock. So, Tug, if you can't hold out for another 8 minutes, don't worry. We'll press on without you. But again, I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. And someone just brought up, oh, Les Chafin, Stacy Q, Queen of Hearts. I was actually thinking there was another song that I was thinking of that made me think of that. And I can't remember what it was. Well, if I think of it, I'll let you know. Emily Miller says a lot of Disney and Pixar movies introduced kids to the whole new genre of music. Shrek, for example. Very, very, very good point. Steve says sayonara and aloha on a steel guitar. And Mele Kiliki Maka to you, by the way. That's a shout out to my cousin from Hawaii. Number one dude says, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving, Thresh. Lots of grub for me. A lot of that going around. Serena Abney says, good night, everyone. Serena, thank you so much for joining us. I know you were late. No worries. Happy Thanksgiving. So glad you could make it. Take care. See you real soon. Good night, all. Love the fellowship. This extended family is more functional than most. Yes, and Tug, that's going to be 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the seminar we're doing on body snatches. Correct. If it's not, I'll email you over the weekend. Gotta get your like cell phone or something. It might be easier to text, but no worries. I'll see you this coming Sunday. John Doe says, number one dude, as far as I know, yes, but then yesterday I found out Bon Jovi bass player died in spring. Wow, I had not known that. Thank you, John. Uh, Resi says, I remember getting licensed to Ill, and it totally blew me away. Still have the cassette somewhere. Wow. That's what, 40 years old? Well, Jimmy says, hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving. Definitely. And I'm glad, hope you did too. Thank you. Big S25 says, is Hungry Jerk gone? No, he was just here a second ago. And he usually says goodnight before he goes, so I'm guessing not. Tab says goodnight and happy Thanksgiving to you as well. Lance Javen says, see you all on Monday, folks. You certainly will. You certainly will. Not sure. I believe I believe Ian pinned down a topic for Monday. I can't remember what it was now. But I'm gonna talk to him over the weekend. Trey the says, have a great night. Uh, Tom says, I'm here. Emily says, dude, how do you get behind yourself? Keithy says, still listening to my Sharona almost daily. Tug says, enjoy the leftovers tomorrow. I'm going to have a sandwich when I get off here tonight. What you mean says, good night, everyone. Resi says, great chat. Stream again, Thrash. You're a great chill host with smooth chat members. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you. And if you guys haven't, please like and or subscribe to all who haven't. Tug says correct, 1 p.m. Eastern. Big S25 says, see you on Monday. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Thrash and many of the good friends over here. MZ says message retracted. And a message retracted to you. Emily Miller says somebody needs to do weekend streams. I work on weekends. That's the problem with weekend streams for me. I work on weekends. I might be able to do some kind of late show, but Dan was doing a late show for a while. Remember, he was doing that late show on Saturdays. Maybe I'll try to do some kind of late stream on Saturdays or something, guys. But it would have to be late because again, I have to work Fridays and Saturday nights, and I usually have a few beers on Saturdays. Would you guys like to see me get drunk on Saturday nights, where I'll just sort of like mumble unintelligently about the good old days to you guys? I'll become my own drunken uncle. Tom says, got some fun stories dancing on tour with Lionel Richie. I'm sure you do. You're going to have to share those. Number two says, let's do it, Thrash. A lot of people saying good night, to take care. And you guys know the routine. Good night, take care. And, Richard Girl says, I am so glad to catch the stream today. Have a great night, everyone. Emily Lewis is back at you, Lance. Tom says, 45. What's your YouTube channel's name? I believe it's the same as this. Big Guys 45s. And Lance Chafin, Emily, in your prayers. And that's another good point. Please remember, let's pray for Emily's family tonight. And John Collins says, yes, definitely. I'm sure Loose Bob is awesome. You guys know I never drink when I'm on channel, by the way. It's something I learned when I was a bartender. Never, ever, ever while on duty. It's unprofessional. But sometimes I might make an exception. And Resi says, time to listen to some Cameo and Commuers. Cameo, word up. It's the code word. They should do a crossover, one of those mashups of Cameo and the Commodores. I'm not sure which two they'd use, but it could be fun. Richard Nichols saying good night to Lance. Yes, Lance, good night. And Emma Lewis says, I'm sure my wife appreciates all the prayers. We don't even know your wife's name, by the way, but it's her sister. And we'll tell Mrs. Emily, D. Emily D. D. Emily. D. Miller. Demilitarized zone. When we're discussing a prayer session, I really shouldn't be this informally goofy, so I apologize. But yes, please tell D that we will be praying for this evening and that we're very sorry for her family's ill health. Keithy says, I thought you're going to get through this message, but Ian was doing Star Wars versus Star Trek for. How could I have possibly forgotten that? How could I have possibly forgotten that was the topic? And yes, we're going to be doing Star Wars versus Star Trek. And remember, and of course, there's no wrong answer, but if I remember correctly, he was already it was already a 2-to-1 situation. Not that I don't like both, but if I had to choose, you would all know which one I would choose. And Doug, how could I have forgotten? You're on that one too. It's going to be the three of us that Monday. Why? I was so busy focusing on Thanksgiving and this Sunday and tonight's chat that I was completely forgetting that. Emma Mo says I don't do prayer, but I'll let her know. Y'all are praying for her and her sister. Thank you. Yes, we certainly are. Uh, and MZ, I'm not sure what you're trying to say, but good night to you too. Uh, anyway, that okay, I'm arachnophobic. I don't know if you knew that or not, but anyway. So anyway, guys, thank you very, very much. Have a good Thanksgiving. Um, what's left of it? Enjoy any midnight snack leftovers you want. And I just want to say thank you all for joining us. I've enjoyed sharing this time with all of you. I appreciate every single one of you. I couldn't do this without you and your great comments. Um, and be safe, be good, be careful. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all again very, 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 very soon. Peace.